In this demo, I'm going to show you an example of an Ingress controller. First, let me show you how the Ingress controller works. I'm going to use the Nginx Ingress controller, which is an existing one. This is a replication controller, so if this one would crash, it would be automatically relaunched. It's called the Nginx Ingress controller, and it's an image that comes from a Google container. It's an Nginx Ingress controller, and it's this version here. It's going to check the health. We have a readiness probe to know when the container is ready, when we deploy it, and then we have the liveliness probe to periodically check whether our container is still healthy. We're going to specify a pod name, which is our pod name, and the namespace, which is default in our case, unless you specify another namespace. We're going to run this on port 80 and port 443. This Ingress controller is going to be working on the standard HTTP port and the HTTPS port. It's going to give these as arguments when it's going to launch the container. So this is the Ingress controller that you could write yourself even if you want, but we are going to use one that already exists. We are also going to say that the default backend service is the echo headers default. And this is a service that I'm going to launch. Traffic will be forwarded to this service when there's no match. So I'm going to say these hosts, I'm going to say in my Ingress rules, these are the hosts, hello world v1 example.com and hello world v2 example.com. If those don't match, then go to this default service. Let me just kubectl create all those things. I'm going to create the Ingress, the object, the controller, the echo service, the hello world v1 and the hello world v2. So these are just services that we're going to access. This is our hello world v1 app and this is our hello world v2 app. So the only thing that's different between those two is that I'm asking for image version 2 and the other one is just asking for the standard image. Let me check if the pods are up. Yes, they are running now. Let me get the IP address. Minikube IP is just going to give me the IP address of my cluster. If you're testing this on AWS, you have the IP addresses in the EC2 console. You just might have to change your security groups to make sure that those ports are open. I'm going to curl this IP address. What's going to happen then? I'm not specifying any hosts. Those are non-existent hosts. So I cannot just go in my browser and type them in because they actually don't exist. You could use real world hosts and then you can just use your browser. I'm just going to give an argument to fake that I'm using those hosts. I don't specify any hosts, so I'm going to hit this default backend service echo headers default. And this is just going to give the HTTP headers. So curl, I'm hitting this default service now. Let me now pass a header. I'm going to pass the host, and the host is going to be hello world v1 example.com. This curl command has the same effect as going to a real DNS name in your browser. This gives us hello world. So our Ingress controller forwarded us now to my hello world v1 deployment. Let's now try v2. And what do I get? Well, I'll show it better. Hello world v2 here. What do I get? Hello world v2. Now our Ingress controller forwarded us to hello world v2, to my second hello world. And I'm pointing now towards the pods, but actually I should point towards the services. So this is the default one, and this is if we hit v1, and this is if we hit v2. This is just one from the previous lab, so don't worry about that one. So that's how the Ingress controller works. You basically have the capability, it's still in beta now, but it will become stable. We have the capability to just run a load balancer inside our cluster that is going to redirect the traffic to the correct hosts for us, which is a viable alternative if you don't want to run an ELB or an external load balancer from your cloud provider, because those also cost money and don't have all the capabilities that you maybe need. Because when you write your own controller, you could add all the features that you want. Things like enterprise authentication if necessary.